The aim of this video is to cultivate interest and awareness of the complex relationship between the human genetics and the various disease states. So in doing so, we'll find out why some individuals are affected by some specific conditions such as polydactyl, which is a condition where a baby is born with one or more extra fingers, spina bifida, and of course cancer. Meanwhile, when you hear about spina bifida, we're talking about where the baby's spinal cord fails to develop properly.
Based on the genetic contribution, human diseases can be classified as monogenic, chromosomal, or multifactorial diseases. Monogenic diseases are caused by the alteration in a single gene and they segregate in families according to the traditional Mendelian principles of inheritance, which are grouped into three laws, where we have the law of dominance, law of independent assortment, and the law of segregation. Now, examples of monogenic diseases, we have the cystic fibrosis, of course, which is a life-threatening disorder that damages the lungs and digestive system. And we also have the sickle cell disease. Now, this is a group of disorder that causes red blood cells to become mishappen and also break down. Now, the next one, we have the chromosomal disease. Now, chromosomal diseases, as the name implies, are caused by alterations in chromosomes. For instance, within an individual's genome, some chromosomes may be missing. Now, extra copies may be present, or certain portions of the chromosome may be deleted or even duplicated. Now, examples of these chromosomal diseases, we have the Down syndrome, and then we have the Klinefelter syndrome. Of course, when we hear about Klinefelter syndrome, we are focused on a genetic condition in which a male is born with an extra copy of the X chromosome. Remember that the male has an X and Y chromosome. Now, in Klinefelter syndrome, there is a position of the extra X chromosome, making the male with this syndrome to have an XXY chromosome as opposed to the normal XY chromosome found in a normal male. Now, the last one there, we say that it is the multifactorial diseases. Now, these conditions are referred to as the complex diseases, and they are responsible for most of the burdens on our healthcare system. Examples of this condition include the cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and a number of birth defects and psychiatric disorder. Now, by definition, complex diseases are caused by variation in many genes, and they may or may not be influenced by environment. Although this condition presents the biggest challenge to genetic researchers, and identifying the genes that contribute to this disease has proven quite difficult. So, beyond the aforementioned causes, a number of alternative genetic scenarios can also lead to these diseases. Such scenarios fall under the umbrella of epigenetics. And when you hear about epigenetics, you are focused on the study of how your behavior and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. So now, one goal of genetic research is to better understand the mechanism of disease so that new treatment approaches and preventive measures can be proposed. Now, technology has come a long way in this regard, and it's currently possible to simultaneously interrogate almost 1 million sites in any individual's genomic DNA. Of course, DNA, we're talking about the deoxyribonucleic acid. Now, with the goal of finding associations between a given disease and genetic variation. However, technological advances have also created new problems for scientists, such as how best to handle the millions of data points involved in genetic studies of diseases. Mathematical and statistical models must also be improved to accommodate the growing amount of data granted by today's research. So scientists must also continue to rethink clinical descriptions of diseases. Now, because researchers now understand that the genetic contribution to many diseases is complex, and that the same disease does not manifest in the same way in all people. I don't know if you get that. So descriptions that involve gradients of sickness and health are typically more effective than those that classify individuals as either sick or healthy. So as a student and a young researcher, understanding the role of genetics in disease has become a central part of biochemical and medical research. Yes, because this is a starting point, for exploring this relatively new field of biochemistry and medicine.